Hannah, bring us in.
Welcome back to The Bleeding Grave, episode 25. I'm Hannah.
I'm Austin.
So for episode 25, we're doing something fun. We talked about it a little bit on episode 24. But here we are now to tell you what we're actually covering. It's going to be the Villisca Axe Murder House and, well, the murders, the true crime, and then I'm going to do the paranormal. And then after, we're going to have Rebel and Avery from the Lovely Bones Paranormal investigation team on to talk about what they do, but also their investigation a little bit that they did at Villisca.
Yeah, so, if like Anna said, listen to our last episode. This is the special treat that we had for you guys here.
Yeah, it's our Halloween episode. Happy Halloween!
How did we not
start the episode like that?
Happy Halloween, happy spooky season, because tomorrow when this episode...
Happy Samhain.
Samhain? Mm-hmm. Okay, I was like, Samhain, is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Perfect. This is, today is... Well, not today, but today is October 30th, with tomorrow being Halloween. We hope you guys had some fun parties happen over the weekend. Hopefully you didn't get too drunk or vomit in a pumpkin.
I'm going to be having a party.
Yes, Hannah will be having a party.
Which is why we're recording this on October 12th, so that I don't have to worry about it over that weekend at all.
And if you want to join the party, the address is...
No.
It's a good thing I don't know what the address yet.
Not even at my house. It's at my friend's house. Oh, I do want to say... hello to our little friend Richard. If you're a Patreon subscriber, you can see we played with our dowsing rods that we got a little bit, and
you sure can.
We didn't get all of it. We played with them for probably about a half an hour, and we recorded about 15 minutes of it, and it got really good after we stopped recording, of course.
Yeah, it seems like always how it works is you stop recording and the good stuff happens, but there are some... I rewatched the footage, and there are some good spots in it. And so, just a quick little thing. I was trying to get a little snippet of it in the post, but it wouldn't let me do video and picture for whatever reason, but that was fine. And I'll have to show it to you. Actually, here, let me show it to you right now, because I thought it was hilarious. I'll try to get this, and so Hannah can see it and we can hear it.
These cross the rods.
Just your face.
When I tell you
That was me laughing on the video, not here.
Thank you, Richard. Please make them straight.
Do you hear the sheer I'm scared, but yet I am having
the electric feeling that went through my whole body every time he answered. So Richard is a 12-year-old boy who died around 1910 of tuberculosis. He used to live on a farm that was on this land. Mm-hmm. I won't give too much away, but he's our little friend. He didn't like our stories last week, but he does like listening to us tell our stories. So
he does. So he's probably here somewhere sitting.
And he's probably not going to like this story today. So I'm very sorry, Richard.
We're sorry, Richard.
Thank you for being so nice and hanging out with us.
He's a cool kid.
He is a cool kid. We like him.
He also likes playing with Ash.
Yes.
But other than that, we're not going to give anything else away. So if you want to see that, head on over to our Patreon.
And subscribe. It's available to all subscribers. And we just have the one subscription level at $3 a month. So with all of that being said, let's just get into it.
Let's get into it. Episode 25, The Villisca Axe Murders. So where we start is on June 10th, 1912 in Villisca, Iowa. Early morning as the sun is just starting to peek out, and most people in a small town, such as Villisca, had chores to do in the morning. This was a Monday morning.
It's a farm town, so
it's a farm town, and that was the next point, such as tending to farm animals, chopping wood, cutting the grass, you name it, they were doing it at early hours of the morning. Neighbor Mary Peckham noticed the Moore family had not been up and made it outside for their chores they usually did on a Monday morning. So Mary went over to their house, let out the chickens, and after that she went up to the house, knocked on the door, which no one answered, which was very strange. What also was strange is their door was locked, and if you're a small town folk, you know you usually don't lock your doors because you trust your neighbors. Mm-hmm. So Mary called Josiah's brother, Ross Moore. Josiah, who is the owner and the father of the house that we're talking about here today, we'll get more into him in just a bit, to let Ross know what's going on. Once Ross arrived, he knocked on the door, tried to open it, and strange, again, no one answered, couldn't get in. tried to peek through the windows, but the windows were covered and he couldn't see inside. He remembered he had a spare key on him. As Ross entered the home, the house had a very eerie stillness to it. As he walked through the living room towards the guest bedroom, he noticed something bundled up, red and wet, in the living room. But he continued to the guest bedroom. This is where Ross found 2 small children in the bed who had been murdered. Ross, rightfully terrified, called out for Mary to call the town's peace officer, Hank Horton. Ross left the house. Both him and Mary waited for Hank to arrive. Once Hank arrived at the house, he searched, and he found some truly terrifying sights. He saw the 2 children in the guest bedroom. He made his way upstairs, checking all the bedrooms. Hank came out of the house, horrified, like he had seen a ghost, and stated, "There is someone dead in every single bed in the house." What Hank had found was every member of the Moore family, including 2 guests, had all been murdered. The family consisted of Dad and Mom, Josiah and Sarah, and their 4 children, Herman Montgomery, who was 11, Mary Catherine, who was 10, Arthur Boyd, who was 7, and Paul Vernon, who was 5. Mary Catherine had friends over who were the 2 guests, Lena and Ina Stillinger, ages 12 and 8. Hank called other police and investigators to arrive, and once on scene, they began to search the house. Police couldn't tell if there was one attacker or multiples when searching the house. Everyone was still in their bed in the sleeping position when they found him, except for Lena, the oldest sister of the Stillinger sisters. She was horizontal on the bed with defensive marks on her arm. Police even commented while inside the house, and it looked like it was some type of ritual had taken place here. All the bodies' faces were covered. Josiah and Sarah's faces were covered with bed sheets, while the children's faces were covered with clothes. Police also noticed how every mirror and window in the house was covered with sheets. Closer inspection of the bodies found everyone was murdered with the blunt side of the axe, with findings of the sharp axe marks in the ceilings. Everyone had their heads bashed in with an axe a handful of times, where Josiah had approximately 30 blows to his head. His face was completely dismembered, and his eyes were like jelly.
Ugh. Gross.
The investigation shows the killer or killers went for Josiah first, then the rest of the family, then went back for Josiah. The main reason they believe this is that just on Josiah's side of the bed, there was a shoe that had blood in it and around it. From what they could tell, the shoe had filled with blood from the first time Josiah was attacked and was knocked over when the killer came back. Think about that. That was just a shoe.
Where was the shoe sitting that it filled with blood? They were all laying in bed.
They were laying in bed, but he had shoes that were on the side of the bed.
Oh.
Right there.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So I'm guessing that the blood leaked down his arm and off the bed.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I was thinking about where the bed is in the room, and for some reason I assumed he was sleeping against the wall.
Nope. So it's almost like the killer had something against Josiah, one policeman thought. After going after Josiah again, the killer went back downstairs to where Lena and Ina were to kill them. Some reports say the police found the axe in the guest room, where others said it was by the red wet bundle in the living room I mentioned earlier.
Oh, interesting. Everything I read said that it was in the guest room. That's the most prominent told bit.
Okay. Yeah, there I found like 2 or 3 different sources that said that police found it in the living room with the red wet bundle.
Okay.
But at the same time, I would believe it was in the guest room.
Yeah.
As well. So for those of you who are wondering what the wet red bundle was, it was a 4-pound box of what used to be frozen bacon.
I thought that was in the guest room too.
No, that was in the living room.
Oh, a lot of sources I read said that was also in the guest room.
Oh wow. No, everything I found was living room.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. They also found in the kitchen a half-eaten meal and some bloody water. Like the killer got hungry, made some food, and then washed their hands and left. And making sure to lock the door behind them, since none of the keys were in the house. And oddly enough, nothing was taken like jewelry or anything of value. Once police quarantined off the house, of course, people's curiosity would get the better of them, so a crowd gathered outside the house of 100+ people from the town. I mean, it's true what the old saying go, I don't know if it's an old saying, but it's a saying I've heard, that bad gas travels fast in a small town.
I mean,
yeah.
yeah.
So after police concluded their search of the house, For some reason, police did not stop people from entering the home.
Yeah.
Some think that people just had this major morbid curiosity since not a whole lot happens in these small towns, and they needed their fix. The crime scene was tampered with, there were fingerprints everywhere, people took evidence, such as items covered in blood, and someone even took a piece of Josiah's skull. Yeah.
Oh my god. That's awful. Let me just take this.
It's just, I don't... I'm fascinated by this stuff, but not to the point
Not
where I'm
that
like,
fascinated.
I want a piece of skull. No.
Hell no.
I mean, to have all the brain matter and blood and hair and skin.
Oh, God, we don't have to talk about that.
Or do we?
No, we don't.
Okay. Trying to get back at you for the Annabelle stuff. And Robert and Richard. This woman taunts me to no living end. Send help.
I also sent him a picture of a creepy doll somebody found in their barn, like in the middle of the night the other night. I was like, hey, look at this. And then that trail cam picture.
Yeah, I didn't blow that picture up. I didn't click on it to make it bigger. No, I was like, I saw a bunch of writing and something creepy, and I just left it alone.
Yeah, it showed up on somebody's trail cam, and the trail cam takes 3 pictures, and the 2 pictures on either side of that one had nothing in it, and that middle one had that apparition in it.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. I'm glad I didn't read that.
Anyway.
The axe was handled by other people, by some of the townspeople, but it had been taken before anyone else could touch it, and no fingerprints besides the people who touched it, and Josiah's fingerprints were on it because it was his wood-cutting axe. Think about that. Somebody went out, grabbed this axe, who knows, came into the house, and it's like, to be murdered with your own axe?
Yeah, there's something... Yeah.
It sounds...
I do have a little something on that in my bit.
Awesome. But to me, it sounds like something personal. I keep thinking somebody had something against Josiah.
Which is interesting because I read in a lot of things that they were one of the most loved families in the community.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody loved them. Nobody had beef with them. They were the picture-perfect family in the community.
Exactly. But at the same time, the evidence points to, it seems like almost a crime of passion. But what's even...
I don't know if I'd say passion.
Maybe not passion, but it's
maybe personal.
Impersonal. But what just... It still is spine-chilling, bone-chilling, however you want to say it to me, is no one was awake. No one woke up. I couldn't imagine... Sarah didn't wake up right away.
To kill a total of 8 people and...
Yeah.
Nobody, aside from we know Lena.
Yeah.
Nobody wakes up. Nobody.
And no one heard anything from outside, obviously, because no one heard anything inside, it seems like.
Whatever they had that kept them asleep. I need that.
Right? Sleep like a boulder for once.
For real.
So the search continued, and investigators continued with police, and they brought in bloodhounds. But this led them nowhere, as the dogs couldn't get a good scent. There were also trains that came in and out of the town, which the killer could have gone and gotten on the train and had been about 5 hours ahead of police.
Yeah, wasn't the train station really close to the house?
Very close. Yeah, I think it was within a half a mile.
Yeah, the tracks go right by the house, too.
Yeah. So, even if the dogs could get a good scent, you're on a train, your scent's gone. Mm-hmm. So the timeline police had pieced together from their investigation is the Moore family was at church at a function the night before, and it was getting too late for the Stillinger sisters to be taken home. So they slept over, and they figured the killings took place somewhere between midnight and 5 a.m. Their investigation took the police towards some suspects, one being Frank Jones. Frank Jones was a local businessman, and Josiah worked for him for several years at a farm equipment business. But Josiah left and started his own rival farm equipment business. This sparked a hatred towards each other because Josiah's farm equipment business was way more profitable and had way more people coming in than Frank's did. These two hated each other so much, if they were walking towards each other, they would cross the street to avoid one another. There have been some claims as well that Josiah was having an affair with Frank's daughter-in-law. But there wasn't enough evidence to support this, so that piece of evidence was thrown out. But Frank did have a solid alibi and was no longer a suspect. Their investigation took them to another suspect, Reverend George Kelly. He was a traveling English minister, and he was in town to teach at the Children's Day services that they had, which the Moore family had attended on June 9th. And the Reverend had quite a past. He had been caught being a peeping Tom, and he has asked several women in past years to pose nude for him.
Reverend.
It doesn't sound like much of a good reverend.
Doesn't sound very holy to me.
No. Reverend Kelly admitted to the murders and claimed to have heard and witnessed the murders. But Kelly had a long history of mental illness, so this made police question whether or not he could have committed these murders. 2 years later, in 1914, Kelly sent obscene pictures through the mail, nudes. He sent nudes through snail mail. Think about that.
Wow. I mean, I guess when you're desperate, guarantee they were unsolicited dick pics too.
Oh, 100%. 100%. So, it's been an ongoing thing. Apparently, men have been just doing this for a damn near a century now.
Doesn't surprise me one bit.
These nudes were sent to women who applied to be his new secretary as well. He put these ads out in the paper, and they would send in their resume, and he would send them back nudes.
As somebody who is actively applying for jobs, I would lose my fucking mind.
Could you imagine, like, you're probably a holy woman looking to be a secretary and be a part of the church and everything, and here's this reverend that's looking for a secretary, and you send in your resume thinking everything's going to be good, and bam, penis.
You probably haven't even seen a penis before, so imagine how jarring that is.
Oh my god,
It's all sorts of fucked up.
Reverend Kelly was arrested, and the police speculated Kelly potentially could have committed these murders, given how he's just able to do heinous acts like this.
Obscene.
Just obscene acts. But there still wasn't enough evidence to prove this. But with more investigation, in 1917, Kelly was arrested for the murders. He confessed he committed these horrific acts. He went through multiple interrogations, multiple trials, 2 trials, actually. But after all the testimonies, witnesses, going through the whole shebang, he was acquitted.
He also retracted his confession.
Yes, he did.
Okay.
Yes. Yep. You're right. He did retract his confession. Like, this man, from what I read, this man is just all over the place.
Yeah.
Like, you don't know whether to believe him or not to believe him. Dude's got some issues.
Yeah.
Another suspect that police came in contact with was a prime suspect in similar murders that happened in Kansas, New Orleans, and in Colorado. All similar were families that were murdered with axes. Mm-hmm. There was a theory that went around that Frank Jones hired William Mansfield to commit these murders. But that was proven to be false. William had witnesses and an alibi. Witnesses saw William that he was in Iowa and last seen boarding a train. He had many witnesses confirming this.
Yeah.
So it's been almost 112 years, and this case is still not solved. They interrogated plenty of people, and we're coming up in the next 8 months. I think on the anniversary, we need to go and visit Villisca.
I don't know about the anniversary, but like, I do think we need to go visit.
We do. I mean, it's only, I think I looked it up, it's only like a 12-hour drive.
Yeah. And it's only like $425 to stay overnight in the house.
Oh, that's not bad.
No?
That's not bad at all. So, with staying in the house, I think most of you have gathered with what we're talking about. There are spirits in this house, and a bunch of paranormal activity. And who better than Hannah to tell us about the ghosties that happen or that haunt the house?
So I want to point out just a couple things that you left out.
Yeah.
So in addition to all the evidence that they found, they also found cigarette butts in the attic of the house. And so it's believed that the murderer actually snuck into the house while they were at church and hid up there and waited for everybody to fall asleep.
See, the reason why I left that part out is because I had too many contradicting stories. Like, one of the main stories from the owners and from all the history of the house and the people who lived in the town say that there wasn't. But some police reports don't even say that they found 2 cigarette butts up there, but some say they do.
Oh,
like
I read that in literally every source that I read.
And I feel like it's part of me thinks that it's a lot of like attention grabbing, like, oh my God, he was in the house. And like I want to believe it, but I feel like there's too many contradictions for me to make a fair assumption or a solid argument that yes, the killer was in the house. The killer was smoking cigarettes.
I mean, the fact of the matter is that nobody knows, and nobody's going to know.
And I think that's where we're trying to get at here is like it is so shrouded in mystery.
Yeah. And
hopefully with Hannah's but her part with the paranormal will give us more insight.
Yeah. So, the other thing, too, with Reverend Kelly, he is kind of, from what I gathered, the main person that people believe did this. So, the paranormal stories actually start with him on that terrible night that this all went down. So, Kelly had said when he confessed, obviously before retracting, that he had been walking around at night when he heard the voice of God tell him to follow the shadow, which led him to the home and straight to the axe in the barn, where he then heard a voice tell him to slay them all.
Oh.
Yeah. So it is now believed that Kelly had schizophrenia and possibly made the whole thing up. But others do believe that there is a darker entity that inhabits the home that maybe did have an influence on him. So after the murders, the house was still lived in for a bit, but it seemed that families never stayed for very long, and the paranormal stories just kind of started accumulating. So things that happen, there's everything from disembodied footsteps and voices to shadows, apparitions, and things moving around on their own. Sometimes there's giggles or screams heard in the home, as well as a mysterious fog that moves from room to room. The current owner of the property has said that she's had plenty of experiences, but she doesn't talk about them. Her reasoning is that she doesn't want to influence the experiences of guests, but she usually just hands the keys to the overnight guests and heads out.
You know, I kind of like that. Kind of make your own conclusion
Right.
and have your own experiences. It's kind of nice.
Yeah, so the home was actually slated to be torn down, I believe in the 80s. Don't quote me on that, but they were going to tear it down.
At one point, they were going to just demolish it?
Yeah, so
Okay.
The current owners bought it with the intent to restore it as a historical museum, but then they quickly started getting interest in overnight stays for paranormal investigations. And so they were like, okay. So they basically gutted the house of like plumbing and electricity and everything. Maybe not electricity, but plumbing. And
Yeah, there definitely wasn't electricity in the house.
Oh yeah,
during
you're
that
right.
time.
There probably wasn't electricity to begin with.
No, they had candles.
Yeah.
You walked around by candlelight.
Yeah, so basically did some restorations, and did what they could to make the house look like it did on that night. And so they do daytime tours that talk about the murders and kind of just like the history and everything. And then if you want, you can stay the night. And then one of the favorite things of spirits to do is using the flashlight method to communicate. Are you familiar with that?
No, I'm not actually.
So it's where you take a flashlight and you turn it on, but you unscrew it so that it turns off, and it'll only turn on if there's pressure put on it so that the battery connects and turns it back on.
Oh, okay.
And so you communicate with spirits by having them, turn it on or off, like for yes or no, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So apparently that's a favorite of the spirits in the house.
I mean, if they didn't have electricity and they're like, what is this? A torch that
Apparently-
uses no fire?
Apparently they've been very responsive with it too.
Oh, nice.
So, some say that there is a dark or bad energy that can be felt, which is fair. It's going to be a very heavy atmosphere with, what happened there.
Mm-hmm.
There's still blood on the wall in some areas.
Oh, yeah. Looking through those pictures of the aftermath is in some of those paranormal investigators taking UV lights to it and seeing the blood splatters.
Yeah.
That just... that gets me down to my core. I don't
Right.
like that at all.
So I read that the kind of experiences that you have in the house completely depend on the type of person you are. If you're a good
Ooh.
person, you're most likely going to encounter the kid spirits and have an interesting and good investigation. If you're a bad person, and especially if you try to provoke the spirits, you're going to have a scary and rough experience.
Oh.
So, in the barn out back where the ticket booth and gift shop is, there's a board full of pictures showing orbs, apparitions, and even somebody who was scratched by unseen hands.
Oh, okay.
And that's something that's happened a few times. I saw a few references to people being scratched. In the attic, where the murderer is believed to have been hiding, the energy is regularly described as very dark and very heavy.
I mean, like you said, it doesn't surprise me in the slightest. It's
Also, I want to point out, it would have been very easy if the murderer was hiding there to get out and start with the parents, because the attic door is actually in the closet in the parents' room.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's right. You're right.
So, Lena and Ina are the two most active spirits in the house. Those are the Stillinger girls, and they show up most commonly in the investigations. From what I can tell, the parents never interact if their spirits are there, but usually any of the kids will. Some also believe that the murderer haunts the home.
Okay.
So, in an article I read on road trippers, the writer had asked their tour guide if they had any experiences, and her answer was a big yes. And as an example, while they were standing there talking, she pointed to a toy car that was sitting on the stove in the kitchen. She said just a bit earlier it had been sitting on the opposite side of the stove, upside down.
No thanks. Kid's like, I'm just going to put this here.
So Johnny Hauser, a local paranormal investigator who actually used to be a skeptic until he started spending time in the home, has done over 400 investigations of the house, and has said many times that when he's entered the empty house, he's heard footsteps moving around upstairs. Johnny believes that the house likes to mess with people, as there's no real pattern to what shows up during investigations, and a lot of odd things can and have happened. He would frequently get different names than those of the family from the spirits during investigations, and after looking into it, the names were all different suspects of the murder investigation.
Oh.
I know.
Oh.
One of his most told experiences is of a time that he and a friend were in the closet of the children's room upstairs to do an EVP session, and they had locked the doors behind them when they entered the home, but they heard someone moving around downstairs. They decided to stay hidden in the closet and waited for whoever was in the house to come upstairs. They thought somebody had broken in and was trespassing, so they're like, all right, let's give them a little scare.
Yeah.
So when they heard the footsteps come up the stairs and into the room, Johnny jumped out of the closet and yelled to scare whoever the intruder was, only to find no one there.
I don't know whether to be, if I was him, whether I would be very scared or feel stupid.
He said he felt like he had the wind knocked out of him when he saw that nobody was there.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's an interesting way to put it. Mm-hmm.
Like, he just was so gobsmacked, startled by the fact that there wasn't anybody there that, like, he just felt like the wind was knocked out of him.
I couldn't imagine that, like, having nothing, because I'm sure you've had the wind knocked out of you,
yeah.
and it's a shitty experience.
It's a shitty experience.
And to jump out to scare and to have fun with somebody that's being stupid?
Right, and there's nobody there.
Oh, no thanks.
So Johnny no longer investigates there after he and his wife, who doesn't even believe in the paranormal, started having experiences at their home.
Oh, something attached onto him.
He's actually pretty bummed out about not being able to investigate there, but it's for the best.
Yeah, I'd say.
He just decided, like, he had to make his peace with that house and its story and move on.
I mean, 400 times, that seems pretty good, though.
Yeah. I believe he was also a groundskeeper for a while there and everything.
Oh,
he might
okay.
still work there, I just don't think he investigates there anymore.
He doesn't mess with the ghost, or not, tries to communicate with the ghost because he doesn't want happening what happened previously.
Yes.
It makes total sense.
Yeah. So, Adelaide's Haunted Horizons, which is a paranormal team and tour group, said that this is one of the hardest investigations that they've done due to the sadness behind the home story. Mm-hmm. Very quickly in their investigation, the batteries in their equipment started draining with no logical explanations as to why. It wasn't cold out, and everything had been fully charged when they got there. So, after they tried for EVPs, they decided to move on to using the Estes method, which involves sensory deprivation and a spirit box. One person listens to the spirit box through noise-canceling headphones and is blindfolded, so they can't see the other investigators, they can't hear them, nothing. The other investigators ask questions, and the person listening to the spirit box says aloud what comes through. So it's kind of putting, like, another layer of, like, showing there's nothing messing with it. It's not, you know.
I've heard it that way before, but it's really interesting if you, like, how you just said it. You have somebody who's blindfolded, can't see, is probably usually in a chair, so they're not really touching anything, so they're really the one sensory you're focused on is your hearing sensory.
Yeah.
And then to interpret what's coming through that box in being a, I guess, quote-unquote, clearer version of what comes through the spirit box.
It's really interesting, because with all of your senses being deprived like that, you know, your only sense then is the hearing. So you're probably going to be able to understand what's coming through the spirit box a bit better than you would if you're all standing there listening to the spirit box. Plus, it's directly in your ears. I don't know if you've ever watched videos of this method being used, but it's fascinating.
It is. I've seen a couple paranormal teams do it before. There was, it just reminded me, there's one guy who was like screaming what was coming through because he
I'm sure, because you just with like a regular spirit box, you just have like the of it flipping through all the radio frequencies.
And he's like, Fred, scared, and he's just yelling out these words. Where the ones I've seen before are just like they're doing it like this. They're trying to like keep as quiet as possible, but. I just found it funny. You reminded me of it, and I just wanted to share that. If I can find the video, I'm gonna share it to you. I'm gonna share it on our social media.
All right. So immediately when they started this, the first word they got was leave, and this is really common. A lot of times people.
I'm sorry. Did you say leaf or leave?
Leave.
Okay, it sounded like leaf. Oh. Sorry.
Yeah, this is a very common one that comes through. Is leave or get out. You know, stuff like that.
The common stuff.
When the investigators asked for a name, they got Henry and murder. When they asked if Henry was the murderer, they were told, get out and leave.
Oh.
So initially, this didn't make much sense to them, but then they went back to their information about the house. Henry Moore, who Austin didn't mention, he was not related to the family, but he was a suspect of the investigation for a while and is believed to be a serial killer whose weapon of choice was an axe. He was eventually convicted of the murders of his mother and grandmother using an axe and is believed to have been responsible for about 25 axe murders across multiple states.
Right.
So, take that as you will.
Yeah.
When they asked if any of the children were there, they got a yes and Ina, followed by house, death, and us.
That all tracks.
Yep. So while listening back on recordings from that night, there seemed to be a constant low murmur of voices in the background that couldn't be made out, and they weren't from any members of the team.
Oh.
Yeah. Or, I shouldn't say constant, but consistent. Towards the end of their investigation, while trying to make contact with the murderer, a woman's voice came through the ovulus saying, please, please leave.
I'm starting to get the feeling that these ghosts are like, if you don't get out, something bad is going to happen to you. That's
kind of the theory behind it. So
then it kind of changes my theory just a little bit. Like, what if it was like the house always had like a demonic something in it, and then
that, or if the murderer is also haunting the house, you know, there may be some sort of residual haunting, or maybe they're just aware of it being around and what. Because no doubt the murderer is going to then be some sort of darker spirit,
right,
or something. So people believe that, you know, a lot of times the other spirits will try to warn people of the bad things that are there.
Then it makes me more curious, is what is the killer, the supposed killer, who is, if he's haunting this, they are haunting this house. What are they attached to then, you know? Like,
some people think it's the murder.
The murder in its entirety in the house. Okay.
So,
because the axe isn't. I'm sorry. The axe isn't at the house anymore. Is it?
The axe is in a museum.
Okay.
I have something about that.
Okay.
But like Reverend Kelly, or the name Kelly, comes through a lot while people are doing investigations.
Right. Okay.
You know, there's all sorts of stuff. So, the Villisca Axe Murder House has been on many shows like Ghost Adventures and BuzzFeed Unsolved Paranormal. I'm not going to dive too much into the shows, but I do want to mention a couple of things.
Please do.
So, I'll start with BuzzFeed Unsolved. When Shane and Ryan?
Shane and Ryan.
Yeah, when Shane and Ryan from BuzzFeed were asking the murderer what they did, or why they did what they did, they got the answer on the spirit box, and it said, hard to stop.
Like an impulse control? Kind of like I couldn't stop murdering?
Right.
Creepy.
Yeah. And then another thing, I don't have it in my notes, but I was watching the Ghost Adventures one just for shits and giggles. It was in season 4, so potentially still when things were like reputable-ish with them.
Yeah, I would say you're trailing into some murky territory there.
Yeah.
But I think you'd be right on that one.
But Zach Bagans went and got what is believed to be the axe from the museum and brought it into the house.
How did he?
I don't know.
How? No. Okay. It's right there. Like, you don't just go to.
I'm not done.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm not done.
Okay.
And he decided to lay down on the floor and stand the axe up on its handle so it's upright with the sharp side facing him, and went, "You want to keep murdering? Drop this axe on my head."
Fucking bagel bites. Why? Why do you do
like,
this?
Regardless, that's just stupid. I mean, from everything I've watched, that house, like, is not sturdy. Like, it's one of those houses where, like, you can feel footsteps everywhere. If somebody jumps, like, the whole thing shakes. So, like,
that floorboard moves, you're dead. Doesn't even have to be a ghost. It's just your own stupidity at that point.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw that idiocy out
but
there.
I'm wondering, how did this...
I don't know.
I'm not going to keep calling it an idiot. I'm just curious. How did you go? How did you go to a museum? Just get this axe and bring it there.
I don't know. They just handed it to him.
No way.
It's what it looked like. I don't know how much. But
I guess if it's for
work
TV,
it took on the back end of it.
Okay. See, yeah. Because
But
if it's for TV, they're like, oh, this will bring in a lot of views.
Yeah. So, and the last thing I'm
Bagel
going to
bites.
end on is a man who visited the house overnight in 2014 and stabbed himself with a hunting knife. And he was found in the morning on the floor of the guest room, which is where the axe is usually believed to have been found, the murder weapon. And he says that all he remembers is going into the house with the intent to provoke the spirits.
Bro.
And then waking up in a hospital bed.
Bruh. You fucked around, you found out.
Yep, so he went back a few years later and apologized to the house
Oh, good.
for his actions.
I've never heard of anyone ever doing that because they're usually dead.
Yeah. Yeah, so that is the hauntings. That is Villisca Axe Murder House. We are going to move along, though, and get Rebel and Avery on here to talk about it.
Yeah, so put your hands together. We can't hear you, but put them together for Rebel and Avery.
All right, Rebel and Avery, welcome to the Bleeding Grave podcast. How are you guys doing tonight?
Doing good. How are you?
We're good.
Yeah, we're doing very well over here.
So we have a few questions ready for you guys. We were going to start with when and how did you guys get started with the Lovely Bones Paranormal?
Well, I've been seeing and hearing and feeling spirits since I was a child. I went through a phase of not wanting anything to do with it and blocking it out, then realizing I couldn't fully block it out, and then embracing it and deciding I wanted to do this. So then I started doing this, and I told him I wanted to do it, and we just decided to jump in on it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Tag along.
Well, then you and Hannah have something definitely in common then.
Yeah, for sure. I'm playing that game right now, too.
We were actually just playing with some with our dowsing rods here right before you guys got on.
Yeah, we just got
I
dowsing
haven't
rods.
done that in a minute. I'm sure the ghosts here in the house are just like, WTF, did she forget about us?
Right. They were messing with Austin. They wouldn't answer when he was holding the dowsing rods, but they would when I was holding them.
Sounds familiar.
Usually they just won't do anything at all at first. And I'll be like, are you mad at me? Like, I'm really sorry. I've just been busy and it's chaos around here. Like, I've been exhausted. I'm sorry. And then they're like, okay, I guess.
I guess we'll
And then they
talk.
start messing with all my stuff.
Of course.
But they usually interact with me over him the
Okay.
majority of the time.
All right. So bouncing off of that, what are some of your favorite tools to use while you're investigating?
I gotta say, I really like the Boo Buddy.
The
The little bear.
You want to explain the Boo Buddy?
He's a bear that's kind of like a REM pod, but he also has speaking prompts when he's been touched. He'll prompt to get them to touch again or to interact more.
Oh, interesting.
So he'll ask little questions.
Oh, that's fun.
So
And then
kind
you might get an EVP that's answering one of those questions. You know, never know.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
That's interesting. Oh, that makes a lot of sense because you can like put it in a room and you can like leave and go somewhere else and probably still get stuff.
Yeah, we did. We left it in a hallway in our last one. We were in the same hallway but further down, and you could hear it going off, and you could see the red light in the dark, so you could tell it was being touched because it turns red when it gets touched. And then I would have to say my other favorite tool would have to be the PMB.
The PMB? What's that?
It's also called the Polter Tune. It's a motion censored music box.
Oh,
yes.
yeah, we watched your
Villisca video.
Yeah, the
We saw
Villisca
that.
video. I thought that was really
It brings out the kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even know that you could do stuff like that with those kind of instruments.
It's got a cool feature to it where it's not so much like, I don't know how exactly to explain it, but it relates to temperature differentials.
Oh,
It picks up on that, and it somehow coordinates that with motion, and then it makes it go off.
okay.
Yeah, because I kind of remember from your guys' video, you're trying to make it work, and like Avery would go through it, and then you're like, no, if you do it here, you're not touching it. I can't remember your the other one's name.
Paul, the older gentleman? Or
Yes,
the younger guy?
Paul. Yeah, because he was like leaning over the doorway, and it wasn't going off, but if he'd step in a certain way, it would go off.
Yep, you have to be within a certain range of it as far as distance. I believe that was like 3 to 5 feet
Yeah, something like that.
is what we were getting.
Gotcha.
And then if you're above it or below it, it can't see you.
Okay.
Oh, so it's very, very directional and within a certain amount of feet. So it's pretty precise then.
It very much is.
Okay. Awesome.
So do you want to kind of go into your investigation at Villisca and tell us about it a bit?
I think that one is the one I'm most excited to do again.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Like, I want to go back so bad. I was actually pregnant with our daughter when we did that.
That's right.
Yeah, I remember that in the video.
I was going to say, because I remember you saying that some like spirits were coming around you a little bit more and were like focusing more on the baby.
Well, I had discovered that the Stillinger girls, who had also died in the home, those were the 2 girls that were visiting.
Mm-hmm.
Their mother, at the time of their death, was pregnant.
Oh.
Got
That
it.
makes a lot of
Okay.
sense.
And she also lost that baby.
Oh, that's
Oh.
unfortunate.
You know, stress and losing her other kids.
I
It
mean,
was too much.
Yeah, understandable.
very, very much so. Very unfortunate. So I wanted to ask, what was your initial reaction when you guys stepped into the Moore house? Like, what was the feeling? What was your first thought?
Mine would be more like an overwhelming kind of feeling.
Like overwhelming, like in...
Like good, bad, just in general.
Just like it was super busy.
Okay.
Okay, fair.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know that feeling.
Yeah, definitely.
I felt watched from every angle. Like, I felt like there was little eyes peeking out around every corner. I could feel where the kids were at. And that they were curious and shy and scared because we're strangers.
Mhm.
Like, we had to reassure them a couple times, like, we're not here to harm you, before they felt comfortable really interacting. But it felt very, very much alive in that house. There was a lot of activity happening, a lot of busyness in the home. But I did feel like a heavy, dark, negative energy.
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit during the other part of the episode. How a lot of people say that it feels like very dark or heavy in there. There's definitely something there, and whether that's from what happened or from an entity or a certain energy that's in there. But regardless, it's there.
It's like at certain times, it's not all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's in certain areas for sure in that attic space. I did not like the attic space at all.
No. Okay. You,
In upcoming parts, you'll see that I'm just like, absolutely not.
I mean, that
When me and
attic is
Avery go up
creepy.
there alone to get, well, without the other 2. I shut the door to that room. I wanted nothing to do with it.
That's
And
fair.
Paul actually put the doll in the chair
Oh god.
No.
in the attic. And I don't know if you have seen any of Omar Gosh's videos recently, Omar Gosh TV.
No, I haven't.
No.
He did a big YouTuber series where he had 16 different creators, 16 different locations, locked in all night alone in the dark
Oh, crazy.
Oh,
at different
okay.
locations. And one of them was Villisca.
Oh, that's
And you can see where the doll is still sitting where Paul left it. It's in a very eerie spot.
Yeah, I watched the BuzzFeed Unsolved one. I don't know when they went. I think it was probably a while ago, but I noticed that there are dolls all over the house.
A lot of people bring gifts.
I think it's kind of like when they're bringing gifts, it's more like kind of like how you guys were. We're not here to harm you. We're just here to interact. We are very much friendly.
Right?
Yeah.
More the honey than the vinegar kind of aspect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
That's a big issue I have with a lot of what we would call ghost hunters versus paranormal investigators is their tendency to provoke and not be respectful, and just to immediately jump into provoking them to react in a negative manner.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I will say, watching your part 1 of Villisca, you guys were always making sure, and like you said, making sure that they know that you guys are friendly, and just the respect that you had for the house, for what had happened, for the spirits who are there. It was very refreshing to see.
It's a it's a goal to keep that genuine, open, transparent, and respectful at all times as much as possible in every investigation we do.
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of how I've always approached things as well when communicating with spirits. I'm not here to harm you. I'm here to visit. I just want to get to know you, and if you'll talk with me, I would love to talk with you.
I'm definitely the type to get upset about faking evidence.
Oh, for sure. That's
and
fair.
to call those people out a lot. And that's where, like, when people bring up ghost adventures.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or things of that nature. And I'm just like, no, why?
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit earlier too, and when they visited Villisca and everything, and it was about the time where there was kind of that shift where it went from being more genuine to them faking more stuff, and Zach Bagans just loves to provoke spirit at any chance he gets.
If you get a chance to, he also did the Calumet Inn in Pipestone.
Okay.
And that place is certifiably haunted. Like, we've proven that. But we didn't get exactly what he was getting.
Yeah.
In the sense of how dramatic it was.
Yeah.
Like, our experience with Charlie, the spirit in 308, was very friendly, calm, respectful. He respected our space. He didn't bother us at night when we slept. Like, it was very peaceful. And he would interact when we asked him to. He was very friendly.
Mm-hmm.
And they made him more dramatic than what he was. So you could tell that it was faked.
Yeah, just the fact that Zach Bagans seems to get possessed or something every other episode is very telling, in my opinion.
I mean, how many times have we seen a YouTuber, I mean, a few of them we can bring into mind quite quickly, that have gotten possessed?
Right.
And it's like, you can tell the difference between a real beginning of something and someone faking it, because it's very cliche when they fake it.
Yeah, and it usually, if there's an actual possession, it's not something that happens like a flip of a switch. It's something that's prolonged, and it takes time for it to really happen and get full blown. Sometimes.
There are instances where if it's a strong enough entity and you're like more open, say you're a medium or something of that nature, you're more susceptible to those entities being able to use you as a voice. Using you as like a plug-in. Like you're their speaker.
Yeah.
A more clearer version of a spirit box.
They're controlling or something.
Yeah.
For example, there was one, I believe, I think he calls them episodes. I don't know what he calls them. On Hunting the Dead, where Jody had taken a cousin of his girlfriends or wives. Are they married?
Sure.
I don't know. Had taken this cousin of hers with him to a home that was known to have a negative sort of entity thing going on, but nobody knew exactly what.
Mm-hmm.
She very quickly started showing signs, but she's also a medium.
Yeah.
And she was like scratching the walls and not talking like herself. She had the double voice thing going on. Like, it was more intense than what the fakery is able to show you.
Yeah.
That's fair. So
And it escalated over time after they left.
Okay.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. So speaking of spirits, I'm curious, who was the most interactive spirit in the Moore house that you guys encountered?
For me, it was Lena.
Okay.
And
Yeah, pretty much any of the children, I think, mostly.
I think for you, it was Reverend Kelly.
Well, I kind of started that.
I mean, I don't know if you saw that part where his hand, but like you saw him drop the rod.
Yeah.
My hand
Well,
smacked
almost
it.
dropped it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I don't know
do
how to
remember that
describe
part.
But he felt like he was hit.
I was gonna say it did look like the rod was like pushed.
Yeah, I think we actually like went and played that back a couple of times, watching it really closely because we were like, "What?" Like,
Yeah, because it happened so
I got
quick.
so mad. Like at that very moment that happened, I got angry, but it wasn't my anger.
mm-hmm.
It was like I was feeding off of Lena. Because Lena was right next to me the entire night.
Yeah.
And the moment that happened, it's like she got mad that he had the audacity to lay his hands on somebody.
Okay.
And she got very angry really quick. And I had to shut off my camera and walk outside for like an hour.
Yeah.
Definitely a smoke break situation.
I mean,
I
that,
smoked like 10 in that smoke break.
Oh man.
and I mean, it makes sense. She was the one who fought back, and if she's seeing, another spirit, potentially the murderer put hands on somebody else, I could fully understand that anger that would come from her, and the way that she would feel.
Well, our chain of questioning was very much pointing towards the theory of SA.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Because I had done some reading and things were pointing that way, and I wanted to hear it from her specifically.
Yeah.
And she did confirm numerous times that it was a SA sort of situation.
Oh, that's so
That's
unfortunate.
terrible.
That's awful.
And back then they didn't have the testing to prove it.
No.
So the naysayers that say, "Oh, well, she wasn't this, she wasn't that."
Right.
How do you know?
Right.
Oh,
It
exactly.
was
Like,
1912.
Right.
yeah, you don't have the kids.
Provoking, if you will, and pretty much calling him out like straight up he's a pedo, and that's when I got my hand smacked or the rod got slammed, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of nail in the coffin, if you will.
Yeah, exactly. Which completely tracks with some of the stuff that you had brought up about him in
We even
the
got
rest of the
locked out.
episode. Oh.
Did you?
Yeah.
Was
right-
that after my break when you guys came out to check on me? Or was that later
No,
on?
That was like after we all stepped out after that. We're like, hey, we're done. We're going to take 10 minutes, whatever. And we had the key inside. We're like, whatever. We're just going to shut the door. And we'll,
No, we had the key with us.
Did we or did I get
I had
spare?
the key.
Okay. Well, anyways, whatever. So we just left the door open, went out and sat in the barn and smoked and whatever. And we came back in to kind of start up again and finish out what we were going to do. And then, the door was locked on us. And everybody admitted the door was open and unlocked and they walked out.
Oh, that's insane.
Oh, if I remember, I think I remember this part. Didn't one of you say you saw a shadow figure of a man standing in the doorway?
I did.
Okay,
I
yeah.
could have sworn I saw Kelly's figure in the doorway.
Oh.
Like, matched his photo. The shape of his head and everything matched the photo.
Oh.
I've seen those photos. I mean, he's not. It's like it's very distinct.
Yeah.
Right. He's a goofy looking feller.
Yeah, that's one way to put it.
Well, I mean, there are so many theories on what happened and who killed the Moore family.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes down to it, all evidence points to this man.
Yeah.
And it's ironic because it's the first time he had ever been to Villisca. It was his first visit. And a whole bunch of people end up dead.
Yeah, he dipped out right away.
Yeah, he leaves right away in
had-
the morning. I think I read somewhere that like a day or two later he had brought a bloody shirt to be cleaned somewhere. Like just
Yeah,
crazy
he
stuff.
had mental breakdowns on record. Like, he was institutionalized. At one point, he had been known for soliciting women and peeping Tom crimes. And what my theory is that he had escalated.
Yeah.
Like, this was the beginning of a serial killer sort of sitch.
yeah.
I was seeing, in my head, I was seeing him going from the peeping Tom and the soliciting and harassing women to waiting in the dark for people and killing people to get what he wanted from one person.
Yeah.
And that, I believe, is what happened with Lena. Is that she was his target. She happened to be staying with the Moores. And so he went and waited and killed everybody to get to her.
Which is just
I mean, that puts a whole,
truly insane
insane. That just puts a whole new
perspective.
perspective on this gruesome story.
And I mean, everything that I was getting was confirming that. Everything I was feeling was confirming that it was Kelly. And I kept feeling his presence. I kept hearing things from him. We kept getting EVPs, and we've watched other people's videos too, where they've gotten
Similar stuff.
recorder EVPs, like on an actual voice recorder. And they asked who killed the Moore family, and it'll say Reverend Kelly.
Yeah, that's what I came across in a lot of my research too.
I
Was
believe
that
Mindseed had one that was very clear.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty adamant that it was Kelly. I don't believe that it was this traveling serial killer that I feel like he just sort of mimicked the MO.
yeah,
Because it was a big deal at the time, and it would have been easy to place blame on somebody else that they couldn't figure out who it was.
True, because there
But
was.
he literally bragged about it. Like, he got on the first morning train. He bragged about leaving 8 souls dead before anyone knew that they were even dead.
See,
which is-
that part I didn't know that he was bragging about it.
He was bragging about it, and then he returned and I believe posed as an investigator, as a private investigator or a police officer of some kind, and entered the crime scene to sort of relive that whole. You know how serial killers often go back to the place where they buried their first victim or where they killed them.
yeah.
Oh yeah,
Same concept. He was going back to revel in his crime.
I didn't know any of that. Thank you.
And I believe that's why he also ended up there after death.
Yeah,
Oh.
we were talking about that a bit too with.
I don't think they were the only victims that he had ever done in his lifetime. I believe because he got away, there were probably other kills that they never
absolutely.
caught.
Yeah,
But I feel like he went back there because that was his first.
and it was big. It was a huge deal too.
Precisely.
So you had kind of touched on it earlier, but what is one thing that you dislike about paranormal investigating, and like what would you change about it?
Mine would be kind of like the backlash you get from people. They, they see what's on TV and they're like, oh, well, now you're just antagonizing and stirring things up that you show it when 90% of the time it's just more storytelling than it is digging up past and different things.
Yeah,
So kind of get like a bad rep, if you will.
yeah, that makes sense. I definitely get some weird looks when I tell people like, "Oh, I talk to dead people." Like,
Right?
and
Get in with the cool crowd, would you?
I mean, I do that for fun, so
Right,
I guess
like-
I see that in a different perspective because I literally took a haunted doll to IHOP and told people it was haunted for fun, just to scare
all
them.
right. I like it.
I mean, it was great because this guy literally watched us the whole time we were there.
oh, that's so
I could
funny.
just imagine his face is just in the eyes are big and just
It was
fixed on
perfect.
you. I love that.
Look at his girlfriend and he'd look over at me and he'd just be whispering to his girlfriend and like looking over at us like we were so sus.
Oh my
like-
gosh, that's so funny.
Like, come on now, just because people want to come in, enjoy a meal
With their haunted doll?
with their haunted doll. I mean, come on.
I didn't
It's
want
just
to
a
leave her in
family
the car.
outing.
It was cold outside.
That's fair. You were just trying to be respectful.
Exactly. See, if people don't want to understand that, that's their issue.
I even messed with a Karen at Caribou with her too that same day.
Oh,
I It was a fun day.
You guys should just start carrying a haunted doll with me for those exact situations.
It's so fun because it really sparks a conversation.
Oh, I love that.
I'd have to say, for me, what I don't like about the paranormal would have to be the arrogant level investigators, the ones that think that they're above everybody else.
Yeah.
God forbid if you're new or have only been doing it a couple years and they sit here and they judge you, they look down on you, and they're not very friendly.
Right.
Like, we've noticed, like, a lot of the long-term teams or investigators that we've met have not been very kind.
That's unfortunate.
That is really unfortunate.
Yeah, they don't believe anybody else could be right ever if it's not their way.
I
no
can't
way.
believe that because it's like they started somewhere too. So
Well,
it's
right.
like, in like what, you just want this, what's the term? I don't know, trade to die with you? Like, there's gonna be new people. There should be new people. Like, and you should welcome
I've had
them.
people tell me the craziest things. Like, they go to a school, or they went to a school for investigating up in Canada or whatever, that they learned all this from, and they can't really share how to do this stuff. They can't tell you anything. You have to go to the school to get that information. It's very secretive.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, okay, I don't take you serious.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like,
it's hard to take people
That
seriously.
I don't trust. If you're not being transparent with me, if you can't share this with me, how am I supposed to believe it?
Right, exactly. I mean, that's half of paranormal investigating, is being able to show how you got these results. And if you can't show how you did that, how can anybody trust that it's a true result, it's a true evidence, or anything like that?
That's how I felt about it. And that, and the people that charge ridiculous amounts of money to investigate people's homes.
Yeah.
That's immediately red flag fraud for me.
And it's just people out to make money. It's sickening in most cases these days, especially with the paranormal, because there's people who want to do it, but there's people that know they'll pay it.
Like, they don't know any better.
But then it hurts the credibility
Yes,
of
100%.
everything.
I'd agree wholeheartedly
Like
on
the
that.
field as a blanket umbrella sort of effect. It hits everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when you fake evidence, when you charge and you're not being honest with people, and you're committing fraudulent actions like that, using paranormal as a way to gain money and scamming people, all you're doing is hurting the research field.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm not a big fan of what I would call ghost hunting,
Yeah.
because of those certain aspects of it, the tendency to fake evidence for views.
Yes, 100%.
It's not worth it. If you're honest and genuine and transparent, you're more likely to get more people who want to watch what you have to show, because you're actually being honest.
And I like the way you say that, Rebel, and that's why I like your videos. And I think Hannah would agree. We both like your videos, especially on the Villisca Axe Murder House. But we are running a little low on time, so want to get out to our listeners. Where can they find you on social media?
TikTok, we're on there. We're on Instagram. I believe we have a Facebook.
We do.
Yeah.
What are
She's
your...
the brains of the operation.
We have Facebook. I'm just horrible at keeping up with it.
That's okay, but like, as far as like YouTube and like your handles and stuff like that, like, where can people find you?
So at everything, it's Lovely Bones Paranormal or Lovely Bones Paranormal Official.
All right, perfect. And do you guys have a website?
No.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. I mean,
Everything's social media based.
okay, and we'll tag like your social media and your YouTube and stuff and like the episode
link
description.
Tree, you can find my link tree under any of my videos.
Okay, perfect.
Oh,
Yeah,
perfect.
we'll put that in the episode description so that people can easily track you down and find you and check out your stuff. Thank you so much for coming on and spending some time with us.
Yeah, and giving us
Speaking of which, we also have a group if you're in Minnesota,
Oh yeah,
which is where you found us, I believe.
yeah.
On Facebook, Haunted Minnesota. And it's a pretty good community. We have over 20,000 members, 20,000 K members.
Yeah.
I don't know how to
Perfect.
say that. Anyways, we have a lot of members, and it's a very chill group. Very little drama, very little spamming, because we're pretty on top of it. We have a great mod team.
Yeah, you just put that mod team in place, I noticed, and it's been a great group the time that I've been in it. Thank you again for
I'm
letting
even
me
surprised that I
promote the
started
podcast in it a few weeks ago, or a couple months ago, whenever that was. But yeah, that is how we met, because I joined the group and ended up messaging her with some questions. But yeah, it's a great group. They have great videos and everything on YouTube. Their stuff is really interesting, so make sure you all check them out. Thanks again for coming on. Our little monster.
Thank you for being fans as well of our
Yeah.
content. We appreciate all the wonderful things you've had to say as well, and all the feedback you've given us.
Yeah, absolutely. This was a ton of fun, but we'll let you guys go and get on with your night. Right, before we go, we are going to do our cemetery fun fact. So, this one is an old Mexican belief that is, if a dish or pot falls and breaks for no reason, someone in your family is dead.
I'm sorry. Is?
Is.
This is absolute.
Apparently.
Okay, that's not as Hannah. That is not fun.
They're not always fun, you know that.
I know, but I was hoping that this one would be a fun one.
You got a nice one last time.
Okay, you're right. I can't blame you on that. You gave me a really nice one last week now, or the last episode. Now you give me this one, but it's Halloween, so
Yeah.
death is always in the cards.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for joining us and the Lovely Bones Paranormal on episode 25. If you are a Patreon subscriber, we will see you over on the auditorium. But until then, bye.
Yes, goodbye, and we will see you all on episode 26.
Yeah, we'll see you on episode 26.
We'll see you in November, guys.
Bye.
There's only 2 months left. Bye.
Bye.
The Bleeding Grave is hosted by Hannah Slavic and Austin Wenger.
Music by Hannah Slavic.
You can find us on social media on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
You can listen to The Bleeding Grave on Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and more.